This local marketing update is brought to you by Scott Gallagher. Scott is the co-founder of Local Marketing Source and has become the recognized expert in providing online marketing services to local businesses. Follow Scott on Twitter at ScottGallagher5 and on Facebook.com/Scott P. Gallagher.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Scott Gallagher here with Local Marketing Source, bringing your weekly local marketing industry update. Now, next week's LMS member call is going to be Wednesday, June 4th at 4 p.m. Eastern. And don't forget to listen and subscribe to our weekly podcast on iTunes, as well as our YouTube channel. Now, this week, it doesn't seem to be quite a bit that has happened this week, but nonetheless, there's an interesting study that has come out, and I've always questioned this myself as to Google's market share, and we know that ComScore is the end-all or the be-all of market share, at least according to the industry, but they claim that Google has about 67% or two-thirds of the market. But have you ever looked at your Google Analytics and noticed that you get 85, 90% of your traffic from Google? Wouldn't that not dictate market share? Well, what's up with that? We'll take a look at that. An interesting thing for agencies that are out there, attorneys, this is the second or the third time I've seen this in the last year, where an attorney client is suing an SEO firm. And we'll talk about that and how to avoid that, especially if you're working with attorneys. But nonetheless, just demonstrates that it's giving power to small businesses. And finally, some discussion about the Google Local Carousel. And if you don't know what that is, that's been around for about a year, and it's that black bar that shows up on both mobile searches as well as desktop searches. And a lot of the questions around it that has been some speculation. So on that note, let's move in. We're going to talk about the recirculation gap. In other words, the gap between Google's market share and traffic that gets to your website. This is something I've noticed on my website. You probably notice it on yours, but you go and look at your Google Analytics log and shows which search engine sends the most amount of traffic. Well, obviously, that's Google. And of all the different analytics I've seen for all the variety of different sites, it's been a pretty similar trend that Google will send about 85 to 90% of the traffic compared to the other two search engines. But Google's market share is only 67 to 70%. So why is there that 15% gap? You'd have to assume that if all the websites on the planet got 85% of their traffic from Google, their market share would be 85%. So the study went out and looked at 1,500 different websites and all their analytics, and sure enough, 85% of the traffic came from Google. So the question becomes, well, what is that about? Where does it break down? What are some of the problems with this? And this is called the recirculation gap. Of course, there's no real answer for it. There's only speculation and how ComScore regulates and identifies its searches. But the fact is if there's 100 searches that are conducted, 70% of them are on Google, according to ComScore. Now, with that, when you take a site like both Bing and Yahoo, a lot of that traffic stays within the site itself, within Yahoo or Bing. Yahoo's got a very powerful news engine. So does Google, but people typically go off Google's site a lot more than they do off of Yahoo or Bing. So in essence, we can see a lot of what Google's been trying to do and incorporating right into their SERP, but that's obvious that Yahoo and Bing do a better job at that, and that's where they were founded. There was a point in time that they did not want to send anybody off, and they saw, Yahoo was a destination page. It was not a search engine first. It was just a destination page with a whole bunch of links and search functionality that was sidelined. So if you're ever wondering that, and keep that in mind when you're talking about market share, in my opinion, if we're talking about third-party traffic or traffic that's coming to your own page, who cares about the recirculation aspects of it? I'm concerned about that 85%. So keep that in mind, that Google actually has a bigger market share than you may think. All right, moving on. This is a little bit of a warning for SEOers that are out there. Yet another reason why you have to clearly understand the difference between black hat, gray hat, and white hat strategies. Just because white hat is usually the right way to go, and black hat strategies, for a variety of reasons, don't work in the long term, there's one more reason that is much more important than all of them, and it may be the viability of your business. In Michigan, a law firm, Scali and Stewart, is suing their SEO provider. And it's not for lack of success, but rather techniques that they utilized for SEO that violate the terms and conditions of Google. So, for example, if you tell your customers to go and ask customers to get reviews for the sake of reviews, you could be sued. And that's a fine line that we walk, because we do ask our customers to get reviews, but we make it perfectly clear to them that you're only asking their customers after they have already said something nice. And you're not asking them to leave a review for the sake of review. You're asking them to digitize what they've already said. And we go to efforts to make that clear. Well, that's a fine line, because one is in violation and the other is not. So understanding, we can go through a whole variety of different, if you had some questions about what a technique may or may not be, if it's gray hat or black hat, definitely be clear. And we do not employ any black hat strategies at our agency, nor do we ever plan to. Who knows what it could cost? Is it the cost of the cleanup? Is it the cost of the additional content that's created? How many links? In this case here, they found 6,720 links that were created invalid and spammy. How much business have they lost? It is because of one of the more recent updates, because of Penguin that was discovered. They lost their rankings and they went to somebody else. Some little tips: make sure you keep your clients involved in what you're doing, that you're reporting to them, that they're approving of the content that's created. Definitely ensure that you're working with them in terms of what is white hat and what isn't, and any damages that may be happening. And then lastly, I wanted to talk about the Google Carousel. And if you haven't seen the Carousel yet, it's typically in the hotel industry and the restaurant industry as well as retail. But there's definitely more industries that are utilizing it more often. And one of the biggest confusions was, where did that image come from? And so in the last year, we've seen some changes. We've seen actually Google utilize inside images of places. We've seen Google utilize and then switch over to outside images. We've seen Google grab the first image that appears on the Google Plus profile page. That typically is what we see. But these aren't images that users can control. And so the question becomes, what's built into Google's algorithm to grab these images? Because in a lot of cases, they're grabbing really weird, obscure images. And the fact that the image itself takes up over 60% of your space on the carousel, we know that the image drastically influences click-through rates. And so Google's algorithm that just isn't making any sense is definitely influencing click-through rates on that carousel. We read from left to right, and the carousel is exactly that, left to right. It's not from not vertically. And subconsciously, that does not necessarily rank number 1, 2, 3, 4. We don't feel that way. They all have the same weight, looking at eye tracking studies. So that image is extremely important. And there's other aspects that need to be thought about as well with particular images. But what was found in most cases was that it was the first image that was uploaded to that page. And if you've got control over that page, you can manipulate those images slightly and have a better chance at having an image that you've put up there or that your client or your business has put up there first. So when uploading your images, think about what images would serve best for that carousel. The other thing that you want to think about is ensuring that all images are potentially carousel ready, knowing that it would apply. So when you have that particular image, recognize that there is a review overlay of the image. You're really only seeing the top 70% of that image. And so when you're cropping your image, if you've got a landscape image, the carousel image is cropped to be a square. And it's cropped right in the center of the particular image. And then of that square, 30% of the base is covered. So when you're uploading your images to Google Places, upload square images and make sure you crop the image effectively, that the top 60 to 70% has got the real image of what you want to see. Ensure that your images are of high resolution, standard format such as a JPEG or a PNG, not a GIF. And lighting is important. Google can tell with the image if it's indoors or outdoors. Make sure the images are properly tagged for image search and the local business and your geomod. All right, so that's going to come to the conclusion of our weekly update. If you give me 30 seconds, I will be right back and answer any questions that LMS students may have.
Well, thanks for watching the Local Marketing Industry Update. We've got these things coming out every single week, so if you liked with what you heard, just click the button right above me right here to subscribe to our channel. If you'd like to get a little bit more, right over here, go check out localmarketingsource.com. We've got free reports that you can grab. You can even register for a free marketing course to get in and see the portal. Or just go ahead and follow us on some of the social channels. We'll be around. Until next time.